Hi, and welcome to this very special edition of Design Jamaica. And just recently I saw something, a matter of fact, in the Gleaner talking about a recent traffic congestion, I think due to heavy rains within the corporate area. Corporate area meaning areas within the parishes of Kingston and St. Andrew, not the city of Kingston, not just the city of Kingston or the entire Kingston Metro, which goes to the extent of Portmore and Spanish Town. So we're just talking just within Kingston and St. Andrew. A recent traffic congestion, I think, was caused by heavy rain that even resulted in Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness blaming this issue on poor and aging road infrastructure within the corporate area. And I don't blame him at all. A matter of fact, I think he's 150% right. I've been intimating for the longest time now that the road infrastructure within the city of Kingston needs to be revisited. Criticisms also came from UTEC's professor of urban planning, Carl Archer, saying that the lack of urban planning for the city of Kingston was primarily responsible for this recent congestion. She also intimated a walk about the city initiative, urging some motorists to park their cars and instead walk or take public transport. Which me and you don't know, the people now will just park them car and take public transport or walk to work. Hell no, especially for those who've been waiting to drive for this long time and then finally I get to drive. Them now go put on their car and go back to ride bicycle or take bus to work. I guarantee you that. So already that fall on deaf ears. She also blamed traffic congestion on the poor drainage network within the corporate area, which I kinda agree with, but there's more to the problem. We also heard from Vice Chairman of the National Road Safety Council, Dr. Lucian Jones, says the country is buckling with the problem of too many vehicles on the road, which meaning that there's just too many cars and the road network is not adequate enough to handle this volume of vehicles. Dr. Jones also reiterated the fact that driver indiscipline continues to be a major problem, which resulted in traffic congestion on our road and even worse, fatalities. And I want to send a special shout out to Dr. Lucian Jones. He was my family doctor, of course, my grandmother, who is now deceased, God rest her soul. I remember when she couldn't go to the doctor because she became so sick that he would have to come and visit her by the house. And when you see me, that's a tall man. That time I was in my late teens, yes. So big up yourself, Dr. Jones. Indeed. So going back to this problem, what Dr. Jones and Professor Archer, in regards to responding to Prime Minister Holness's blame on the poor and inadequate road infrastructure within the corporate area, which in retrospect could contribute to traffic congestion within the corporate area. While those ideas will fix the problem somewhat, it will not bring a big fix. I remember I was saying to a good family friend that, Kingston is the only city in the world with a population of nearly 1 million that does not have any freeways. There are no freeways in Kingston. All we have within the city of Kingston are just boulevards, streets, and avenues. There are no high-speed motorway that goes in or around the city. Kingston was designed as if everybody from out of town is actually heading into Kingston and nowhere else. Say for instance, if I'm coming from Spanish Town, Maple, or Mandeville, and I want to go to the highway, I want to catch a flight at Norman Manley, there is no way to bypass the busiest streets of the city. I have to deal with it. There are no bypass, there are no beltways, there are nothing to take me out or away from the traffic of Kingston. Say I live in Spanish Town and I want to go to Port Antonio in Portland, but I don't want to go all the way around St. Thomas and then go back around into Port Antonio. I just want to go north up into St. Mary and then cross over to Portland. I will have to deal with the heavy traffic congestion on Boulevard and Dunrobin, and also not to mention Constant Spring Road, which are heavy bottleneck chokeholds, especially at peak hours. Or say if I'm in Halfway Tree at 4 o'clock on a rainy afternoon and I want to get to Spanish Town, it is going to take me roughly 2 hours before I can get away from the heavy traffic of Malines Road or Boulevard or Dunrobin or even Mandela Highway itself, because sometimes that highway literally makes no difference. And I'm talking the section between Caymanas and 6 Miles. All these major thoroughfares are nothing more than just city traffic gridlocks. So I was saying to myself, what if we design a beltway for Kingston, like what is you find in other major cities around the world? Like a ring road that actually allows you to bypass the city in any direction. Now, I'm aware that the geography of Kingston is very tedious for this to happen because to the north and east you have mountains, and to the south there is the Kingston Harbor and the Caribbean Sea. But doing a recent study on the physical topography of the area, I am looking at the geography that surrounds Kingston, and I'm seeing where we actually can build a ring road around the city. And you know, when it comes to cutting through physical barriers such as mountainside hills, land acquisition and relocation, and of course going over water, it can be a pretty penny, very expensive. But in the long run, I think it will pay off if we do it smartly. So we here at Design Jamaica have designed a beltway for Kingston, one called the Kingston Perimeter Beltway project. Now this beltway around Kingston would be roughly 25 kilometers long, totally a dual carriageway turnpike, 4 lanes of traffic in rural sections, but 6 to 8 lanes of traffic in built-up commercial and urban spaces, circling the city starting from the Caymanas interchange in Ferry St. Catherine all the way to Port Royal, which includes roughly 3 to 4 bridges and 2 tunnels, because yes, tunnels, because as you know, it will have to be built in and around the mountains. Not to mention curb walls and of course river training, because a large part of this roadway will be acting like a gorge going through the Hope River Valley to cut down costs of blasting through mountains. As you know, the geography to the east and north of Kingston are all mountains and valleys. Reason why our technocrats of back in the day and even now have not even come close of even thinking about the mere idea of a project like this. But like I said, if we really look at the geography and think smartly, it can happen. Now, the core main reason and goal for this roadway is to divert non-Kingston traffic, out-of-town traffic, away from the streets of Kingston. In other words, instead of having traffic going through the city, diverting them around it instead. For instance, if you pick up a friend at Norman Manley and you want to head to Spanish Town, and you don't want to deal with the traffic of Kingston, and I'm talking about the busy core streets of downtown Kingston, Marcus Garvey Drive, Spanish Town Road, and all these major thoroughfares that are sometimes bottleneck. Instead of doing that, you go around it and dropping out at Caymanas, eliminating traffic lights and pedestrians at intersections. You have one straight road to travel, no stopping until you reach where you want to go. Or for example, if you are in Norbrook and you want to head to Harbour View, instead of heading down south on Constant Spring Road through Halfway Tree and then onto South Camp Road and other thoroughfares, instead of doing that, you take the Beltway and you'd be in Harbour View within 10 minutes instead of taking those roads through Kingston, which would roughly take you 35 minutes. Now the section between Caymanas and Harbour View would be totally a brand new road. As you can see, the Beltway would also incorporate the Palisados Road, which we would upgrade from 2 lanes to 4 lanes of traffic. And I'm talking a fully dual carriageway from Harbour View all the way to Port Royal. Because really, that is what should have been built from day one, post Hurricane Ivan, when they were re-establishing the Palisados Road. Because literally, when we saw they were putting all those, those big boulders along along the roadway, we thought they were going to build a dual carriageway, at least from Harbour View to the airport, only to realize that they were putting back the same 2-lane roadway. And if you look at the peninsula from above, there's clearly enough space for a dual carriageway. So we are going to upgrade the entire roadway from what it is right now to a fully dual carriageway. The new section of the highway will be a toll road from Caymanas to Harbour View. However, the Palisados Road will remain free like it is right now. So as you know, our rule here at Design Jamaica is about mapping. So yes, we are going to map this road for you all the way from Caymanas to Port Royal to give you details. Alright, now as you know, we have 2 highways meeting up at Caymanas. We have the Mandela Highway with traffic coming from Spanish Town, plus the North-South Highway, traffic coming from the North Coast, and we have the East-West Highway, traffic coming from Old Harbour, Maypen and Mandeville, and anywhere west. Not to mention those coming from Portmore that is trying to avoid the Portmore toll. They normally come here. So you'll find out that everybody meet up right here at this bottleneck that creates this first major havoc coming into Kingston. Especially when they were building the North-South Highway, I think it was one of the worst decisions to end it here at Cape Manors. They should have either brought it to the Spanish Town exit and bring that traffic onto the East-West Highway and have both the East-West and the North-South traffic ending up at Cape Manors on one roadway, or go straight into Kingston by going around those hills around Doheny Park and then head south, ending it at 6 miles anywhere in the vicinity of the 876 complex. They didn't do any of those, so now we got to fix this major bottleneck right here. So we are removing any traffic going north, east, or south of Halfway Tree and east of downtown Kingston from the Mandela Highway and sending them onto this new beltway for Kingston. So just as you exit the Portmore exit, the North-South Highway or the East-West Highway, and you want to head anywhere east of those areas, you would enter the new beltway right here and then head north through these hills north of Ferry and north of Doheny Park, then curves north cutting through those hilly terrains within the Red Hills and also in the Smoky Vale areas, cutting through the valleys between the mountains until we end up in Stony Hill. At this point we are gorging the Wogwater River, and in Stony Hill we interchange with the A3 main road, or what you'd most likely know as the Stony Hill main road. So if you're heading anywhere south, whether you're heading to Norbrook or you're heading back down to Halfway Tree and you want to enter anywhere along Constant Spring Road, this is where you'd exit and head south. Or if you're heading north to St. Mary and Portland, you exit here. From here we continue east, heading into the hills north of Norbrook, and we're staying within the valley areas because we want to minimize the amount of mountain blasting and cutting through that a highway going through hilly interior areas would need. And this is one part where I think we'd have to tunnel through parts of the mountains to get to the other side. Along the hillside of Jacksale, we're going to parallel this little roadway called Skyline Drive and head further south, bridging on probably one more tunnel in certain areas until we get into this area near to Papine. That's right. So if you're heading back into the city, and for those students who did not want to deal with the traffic of Halfway Tree to get to UA or to UTech, if you don't want to deal with that, then you travel on the Beltway and you'd end up here. You exit at this interchange and head west into Papine to get to your campus, whether to UA at Mona or to UTech in Papine. Or if you're heading east, if you want to head up into the Blue Mountains or to Gordon Town or to Irish Town, you go east along this roadway. And of course, this is the B1. At this point, we are meeting the Hope River. Now we're going to gorge the Hope River, meaning that we're going to parallel the river from here all the way to Harbor View to avoid cutting through the mountains. I mean, there'll have to be some cutting away of certain hillsides, but nothing major, just along the river to create a gorge looking roadway. I mean, something similar to Bagwalk, but not as clustered and dangerous as Bagwalk. It would be wide enough and modern to handle at least 4 lanes of traffic. Paralleling the Hope River, we are heading further south through the community of Kintyre in the vicinity of Bedward Gardens and of course east of Augusttown. And of course, along this gorge, this is where heavy river training will have to be needed for the Hope River. If any one of us is acquainted with the Hope River, when river come down, it's not pretty. So yes, there will have to be different bridges and of course river training along the river all the way until we head into the area of Harbor View through those hills. Now that we're in Harbor View and we're finished away with the mountains and we're now on the coast, we are not going to intersect with the Paul Bogle Highway because of the river. So instead of doing that, we're going to bridge over the Paul Bogle Highway and then curves west alongside the coast, and instead we're going to interchange with the Palisadoes Road or the Norman Manley Highway right here. That's right. So somewhere along here there would be a toll plaza where you'd have to pay your toll to exit the Beltway to head onto the Palisadoes Road, where the Beltway would actually continue, but you wouldn't pay toll for that section. So therefore, if you're heading east to St. Thomas along the Paul Bogle Highway, you head onto the Palisadoes Road to the Harbor View roundabout and then head east along that highway. If you're heading back into the city, of course, you're going to head on the Michael Manley Highway. And of course, if you're continuing along the Beltway to Norman Manley or to Port Royal, then you head southwest. From here, the Beltway will continue as a 4-lane dual carriageway onto the Palisadoes Road, and like we said before, we are upgrading the Palisadoes Road to a dual carriageway. As you can see, there's adequate space to do that, only that you would not have to pay toll for this section of the Beltway. No, we don't want to have to pay toll just to get to the airport and to Port Royal. Plus we have 2 major bodies of waters on both sides. We don't want to not having the options of taking alternative routes instead of paying toll. So the Palisados Road should not be tolled. Right here, we're going to have exit ramps for the CMU, Maritime, and the Yacht Club. And of course, we're going to cooperate with the roundabout at Norman Manley. No, we're not going to get rid of it, and we're not going to try to put any flyovers. We are going to keep the roundabout, because as you know, the lanes within the roundabout is very wide, plus this area is a very scenic, especially with the new welcome to Kingston sign and all of that. So we want people to have the chance to see that while traversing the Beltway. And as you know, this airport is not a very busy one like say Sangster, so there's no need for any flyovers or anything like that. And as you know, Port Royal is a small area, not many people live there, so there would be no need for a flyover. So from the airport roundabout, we continue southwest along the Norman Manley Highway, 4 lanes of traffic heading all the way to Port Royal, ending the dual carriageway right here in the vicinity of the cruise ship terminal, the Port Royal cruise ship terminal. Reason being, Port Royal is really a town, and we don't want to carry a high-speed highway going straight into the town square. No, it is best to end it right here. And of course, future-wise, in order to have a complete beltway, a complete ring road around the city, we could probably build a bridge, a very long bridge over the Kingston Harbor, which probably would be the longest bridge in the Caribbean. Stretches over to Port Henderson in Portmore, onto the Fort Augustus Peninsula, connecting with the Portmore Expressway and upgrading Dyke Road to a dual carriageway, and then interchanges with the East-West Highway that will bring us back to the Caymanas entrance. In result, giving us a full beltway around the city of Kingston. So for example, if you are at Norman Manley and want to get to Portmore, you wouldn't have to go through the city. You could just head across the bridge and bam, you're in Portmore, cutting your travel time in way more than half. The same thing if you're at Norman Manley and want to head anywhere west of Kingston. And if you're coming from St. Thomas and in Harbourview and want to head to Spanish Town, you now have 2 options. So you wouldn't have to go to the northern section of the Beltway that takes you through Stony Hill. You could also go along the Palisados Road, go across the bridge, head over into Portmore, and there you go. Avoiding the hills altogether unless you're heading to Papine or to Stony Hill, then you would take that section. Generally, in completion, if you're anywhere outside of a 2-mile radius from Halfway Tree, you would be 7 to 10 minutes away from this Beltway, getting you in and out of Kingston even faster. And even if you want to get from one side of the city to the other side, instead of going through those busy thoroughfares, you take the Beltway instead. Now I know most of you already saying, bro, wishful thinking, but you gotta put your mouth where your money is, or put your money where your mouth is. The fact is, Jamaica is a third world economy, and we just don't have the money to build this rigorous type of ring road for Kingston. I mean, this is the same reason why they've not built it yet, because we just don't have it. Plus, when you consider those mountainous navigation to the north and to the east of the city, it's going to be a pretty big penny to build this type of road, which certainly is true. But the fact is, we got to think long term. Professor Archer can preach to the motorists as much as she wants to park their cars and start taking public transport or walk. Me and you don't know said that not gonna happen. I mean, just think about it. You have your luxurious car where you can just jump in and head to wherever you want to go at any time. And somebody I could tell you so to park your car and start walking. Or take bus instead. Which in fact is a pretty good idea. But will you park your car? Will you leave the luxuries and the comfort of your own vehicle to go back and take public transport? And of course, the last thing the government will do is to reduce the amount of vehicles that is coming into the country, because them just love the taxes that is coming from this venture. They benefit from the amount of vehicles that is coming in. And I'm sure Dr. Jones is so passionate about road safety, but we've been preaching this for years, and still motorists continues to drive as if they are the only one on the road. So while these tips are all good and will somewhat fix the problem to a certain degree, none of these will be effective as much as building a beltway around the city. I mean, think about it. No city of this size operates effectively without a ring road. This has been Design Jamaica. If you or anyone you know are about content like these and would love to see more content like this one on wide-scale development across Jamaica, please go ahead and like, share, subscribe to this channel, Design Jamaica and the Caribbean. Leave a comment And don't forget to turn on your post notification bell so you can be notified whenever new content are out showcasing massive development across Jamaica and the wider Caribbean. Until next time, thank you so much for watching.
Brought to you by From Spider Wade. Follow us on all social media platforms.
Feel like you the one and I'm on